Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining the Nature Conservancy of Canada today for this very exciting announcement. My name is Gary Arpin, and I'm from National Public Relations, and I will be your moderator today. And by the way, in case you don't know, today is Earth Day. Yes, it is, folks. Bonjour et merci de vous joindre à la Conservation de la Nature du Canada pour cette annonce très excitante, parfaitement synchronisée avec le Jour de la Terre. Aujourd'hui, je m'appelle Gary Arpin du cabinet de Relations publiques nationales et je serai votre animateur aujourd'hui. Today's announcement will be led by Grenier. She's the president and CEO of the Nature Conservancy of Canada, and she'll be joined by the following guests. Grenier est la présidente et la directrice générale de la Conservation de la Nature du Canada et elle va présider cette annonce. Bonjour Catherine, juste nous dire un petit coucou.
Bonjour Gary. Hi everyone.
Grenier will be accompanied by our guests, and I'd like to introduce them to you, each and every one of them. With us today, the Federal Minister of the Environment and Climate Change, le ministre fédéral de l'Environnement et du Changement climatique, Steven Guilbeault. Good morning, Mr. Guilbeault.
Good morning, Gary. Bonjour à tous et à toutes.
Where are you physically today?
I am in Montreal.
Okay, nice and sunny there, I know. With us today also, the Ontario Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, le ministre de l'Environnement de l'Ontario, de la Conservation et des Parcs, Mr. David Piccini. Good morning, David.
Bonjour, Gary. Good morning, everyone. Wonderful to be with all of you for this historic announcement this morning.
And where are you this morning? I'm
joining you from beautiful Cobourg, Ontario.
Oh, nice. Right by the St. Lawrence there. Joining us too from the Constance Lake First Nation and Treaty 9 communities, Councillor Kristyn Stevens. Good morning, Kristyn.
Good morning, everyone. Wache.
And where are you speaking from?
From Constance Lake First Nation.
Okay. And also with us today, on hand to speak to us, the Senior Vice President, Pulp and Paper Commercial Business Paper Sales, le vice-président principal pâte et papier commercial et vente de papier d'affaires, Mr. Robert Melton is with us today, or Rob Melton, I should say, right?
That's it, Gary. Good morning.
And where are you speaking to us from today?
I am speaking to you from 24-degree sunny North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina. So yeah, it's a beautiful spring day here, so I don't want to rub it in. I'm sure it's not quite that warm yet.
Bring some of that with you when you come back, will you? And finally, the Program Director for Ontario Large Landscapes, Nature Conservancy of Canada, Madame Kristyn Ferguson. Good morning, Kristyn.
Hello, bonjour.
And where are you speaking from?
I'm joining from Guelph, Ontario this morning.
Now, we're all over the place, but of course, our hearts are all in Northern Ontario this morning. That's the important thing. Before I start, I want to provide a quick reminder for members of the media. Please hold all your questions. Our speakers will be available after their presentations. J'aimerais vous rappeler qu'une période de questions est prévue après les allocutions. L'annonce d'aujourd'hui concerne évidemment le nord de l'Ontario et nos cœurs sont tous dans le nord de l'Ontario ce matin. Before I hand things over to Catherine Grenier, though, we're honored to have Councillor Kristyn Stevens bring a very special welcome on behalf of the Constance Lake First Nation and Treaty 9 communities. Kristyn Stevens, the floor is yours.
Wache, everyone. Mingwes, thank you for the invitation to say a few words for this special event. Very happy to be here on behalf of Constance Lake First Nation. We acknowledge that Achikumi, known as Constance Lake First Nation, sits on James Bay Treaty 9 and the homelands of the Muskego and the Anishinaabe people, who are descendants of families who migrated here 1800s from the James and Hudson Bay coast, including Kashechewan, Fort Albany, and the many rivers around us, like the Forks of Albany and Kunigami rivers, also known as English River Post, Mamatawa, Negagamishish, and Negagamishish River, among the other rivers and waterways. We acknowledge the language and history that our nations hold and are committed to a relationship with those who are now around us and want to work with us based on the principles of mutual trust, respect, and collaboration in a spirit of a truth and reconciliation. Now I'm going to say a language in my prayer to bring this meeting in a good way. Okay, mingwach kichimana tu ana gishika ine miniak and shepit bakisene manan minwe kegan chimene panukuta aski gan mutama mumana menat chikate aski wayashi shakuche na mesa shigubiak sai kana miswe kegan muta aski ka spanek ni kante ke chimene banek awasha kuche Mingus Magneton, Kichimanatu, and Gishbag, Evichu Yakuma, Kichige, Fane, Nochitaya, Ganoch, Minguach. Thank you.
Well, Councillor Kristyn Stevens, thank you very, very much for that. And now I want to call on Catherine Grenier. Again, she's the president and CEO of the Nature Conservancy of Canada to make this great announcement. Catherine, tell us about this great news.
Excellent. Thank you, Gary. Miigwech, Councillor Stevens. We really appreciate your kind words. I think in the last few years, we've all learned to navigate virtually, but your words are a powerful reminder of the importance of place. Thank you for that gift. We acknowledge the longstanding role of Indigenous people as stewards of their traditional lands. And at the Nature Conservancy of Canada, we strive to be an ally to Indigenous nations through caring for the lands and waters that connects us all. I join you today from Quebec City. I wish I would be in Northern Ontario. From the tradition, I'm joining you from Quebec, from the traditional lands of the Huron-Wendat people. Alors, bienvenue à tous nos invités. Bonjour tout le monde de partout au pays. Welcome to our guests. Hello, NCC supporter watching online. I know there's many, many of you from all over this country. As Gary mentioned, today is Earth Day. Although I would say at the Nature Conservancy of Canada, it's Earth Day every day. Cette année, nous avons décidé de souligner le jour de la Terre avec l'annonce d'un projet vaste et audacieux. Je vais vous parler de notre projet des terres boréales. So this year, we mark Earth Day with a special announcement. We called it Big, Bold, Boreal. And I'm delighted to introduce you to the Boreal Wildland project. It certainly is big and bold. It's the largest project the Nature Conservancy of Canada has ever undertaken, and it's the biggest private land conservation project in the history of this country. And it sure is boreal, as you can see on the picture. It's nearly 1,500 square kilometers in Ontario's boreal forests. So for those of you that are like me, how big is this? Well, depending where you are, it's 3 times the size of Montreal, 12 times the size of Vancouver, or more than twice the size of Toronto. And it's part of the largest forest system in the world. In the face of biodiversity loss and climate change, nature offers us very real solution. And so we're working at a record pace now to conserve the natural areas that are a life support system. But rather than me telling you about it, let us show you what it looks like. Alors, le projet des terres boréales fait partie de notre engagement à accélérer le rythme de la conservation au Canada. Boreal Wildland is part of our commitment to accelerate the pace of conservation across the country. In just the past 2 years, NCC has influenced the protection of land equivalent to twice the size of PEI. And by the end of 2030, we aim to double our impact. Because as you saw in the video, we deeply believe that when nature thrives, we all thrive. And Boreal Wildland is about impact. When we work at this scale, habitats are connected. By protecting entire natural system, we help nature to deliver the services that are critical for plants, animal, and people. And Boreal Wildland, as you have seen, is a heaven for biodiversity, but it's also a very important natural defense against climate change. The vast forests, the rich soil, and the deep peatlands form a large carbon sink. Conservation keeps carbon in the ground, and the land will continue to absorb more greenhouse gases emission over time. NCC will capitalize on that with another carbon credit project, our very first one in Ontario. Revenue from carbon credit will directly contribute to this project, but also help us accelerate more conservation and deliver benefits in communities right across the country. Now, great partners understand it takes ambition, determination, and money to achieve conservation at this scale. And we are here because of great partners. We're introducing Boreal Wildland thanks to the support of foundational partners, the Government of Canada, the Government of Ontario, and Domtar Incorporated. It's my pleasure to introduce you to these highly valued partners. D'abord, le ministre canadien de l'Environnement et des Changements climatiques, l'honorable Steven Guilbeault. So first, our Canada's Minister for Environment and Climate Change, the Honorable Steven Guilbeault. We're so proud of working alongside Minister Guilbeault and his team as a partner through the Natural Heritage Conservation Program, which is part of the Nature Fund. This has been an internationally recognized public-private partnership for over 15 years. So Minister Guilbeault.
Merci beaucoup, Catherine. Thank you very much for this warm introduction. Miigwech, Councillor Stevens, for your prayer and your welcoming words. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Je me joins à vous depuis Montréal, le territoire traditionnel des Mohawks et autres peuples Haudenosaunee. Happy Earth Day, everyone. Today is about showing our respect for our planet and celebrating all we do to keep it healthy. C'est aussi une journée de réflexion sur ce que nous pouvons faire de plus pour aider et protéger notre environnement naturel. C'est pourquoi l'annonce d'aujourd'hui est des plus réjouissantes. Merci à Conservation de la nature. Nous avons uni nos efforts au fil des ans et j'ai toujours admiré ce que vous faites pour la nature et pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes. When you think of Canada and Canadians, you think of nature. It's a big part of our identity. Nature is also one of our most important allies in the fight against climate change, storing carbon, cleaning our water, pumping oxygen into our atmosphere. And yet, nature itself, in Canada and around the world, is under threat. More than 620 species in Canada alone are at risk. That's why our government is taking action. We understand that protecting and conserving nature is one of the most important steps we can take to curb biodiversity loss while also fighting climate change and advancing reconciliation. Nature is the glue that binds all these important causes together. Projects like the Boreal Wildlands are essential. Une fois achevé, ce projet permettra de conserver 1500 km² de forêt boréale dans le nord de l'Ontario. Ces terres procurent un couloir écologique à de nombreuses espèces sauvages, y compris des espèces en péril, comme le caribou des bois. Notre gouvernement appuie financièrement ce projet grâce à un financement qui devrait s'élever à plus de 17 millions de dollars provenant du programme de conservation du patrimoine naturel. Boreal Wildlands will help us achieve our ambitious goal of conserving a quarter of lands and oceans in Canada by 2025. So let's work together, governments, the private sector, Indigenous peoples, and local communities to make Boreal Wildlands a reality. And thank you so much, Nature Conservancy of Canada. Thank you so much, Catherine. Let's continue working together. I can't wait to see what's next. Je vous souhaite à tous et à tous un excellent jour de la Terre. Happy Earth Day to each and every one of you.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le ministre. Nous sommes très reconnaissants de notre collaboration soutenue, fiers du travail qu'on fait ensemble Et soyez rassurés qu'on est prêt à en faire davantage pour vous aider à atteindre les cibles ambitieuses. Thank you, Minister Guilbeault, for these kind words and for your department's support. Our next speaker, the Honorable David Piccini, is Ontario's Minister of the Environment, Conservation, and Parks. Conservation, it's in his title. We certainly like that, Minister Piccini at the Nature Conservancy of Canada. So Minister Piccini, up to you.
Thank you, Catherine. Merci beaucoup. It's an honor to join all of you today. I'm joining you from Cobourg on the traditional lands of the Williams Treaty, and I'm delighted to join all of you for today's exciting and historic announcement on work we're doing collaboratively with Nature Conservancy of Canada to restore, protect, and conserve Ontario's green spaces. We have, of course, but one planet, one Earth, one home. And today is Earth Day, as you've all heard, and I can think of no better day to mark today's historic announcement. The Nature Conservancy of Canada is such a valued partner of the Government of Ontario, and particularly the critical work that you do to restore, protect, and conserve Ontario's green spaces. I know I speak on behalf of Premier Ford and our government when I say that we're proud to support this wonderful organization. And we're here to share exciting news about this initiative to protect Ontario's biodiversity, ecologically significant landscapes, make more land available for outdoor recreation, and help mitigate the effects of climate change, biodiversity loss, now and of course for future generations to come. We have a long history of expanding protected and conserved areas in Ontario, including provincial parks, conservation reserves, and privately owned natural areas. I think recently to important work we've done with the O'Neill property here in my own community, to work that we're doing along Lake Ontario with the South Shore Initiative. Partnering with organizations like the NCC is just one way we're working to achieve our shared goals of preserving this important natural area around the province of Ontario. We believe investments to protect natural areas are a critical part of our province's future and play a key role in conserving our natural diversity and building resiliency against the effect of climate change. This is why we have an ongoing commitment to expand protected areas and conserved areas across Ontario, building new trails, increasing attendance in our provincial parks, and protecting our endangered species. Our government's budget in fall 2020 created a new program to work with organizations like the NCC through the Greenlands Conservation Partnership Program. Through this partnership with land conservation organizations like the Nature Conservancy of Canada, we've committed to invest over $20 million over the next number of years to support land, to conserve this important natural areas, to mitigate against the impacts of biodiversity loss and protect wetlands, grasslands, and forests for future generations to come. And I'm pleased to tell you today that the government is supporting this with an investment of over $2.2 million to the Nature Conservancy of Canada to acquire lands in the Boreal Wildlands. And as a part of this conservation partnership, I'm so excited to see leveraging every dollar invested to leverage private sector dollar investments, because nobody can sit on the sidelines as we protect our green space. Nobody can sit on the sidelines as we fight against climate change, and leveraging these private sector dollar investments is so important. And I thank you for the work that you're doing. This wetland, of course, is the largest privately owned protected area ever secured in Canada to date. The protected area, as you've heard, includes more than 1,400 lakes, 1,300 kilometers of shoreline and riverbanks, and so important sources of fresh water, cold water fish habitats in Northern Ontario, carbon sequestration, biodiversity, just to name a few. And this is an immense step forward in Northern Ontario and our entire province. And it wouldn't be possible without the expertise and passion of partners like the Nature Conservancy of Canada that I've been so honored to get to know over the past number of years. Again, as we protect this biodiversity, get it done for the people of Ontario. I just want to thank you all for the work that you're doing. Kristyn, your beautiful words to kick off today's announcement, as of course we work in close partnership to honor a reconciliation and this important place in Northern Ontario. Again, thank you. Earth Day, one Earth, one home, one planet. We all have to work together. And I just can't thank everybody enough. It's an honor to be with you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Piccini, especially for those inspiring words. We really, really welcome your support. In fact, I think it's the third major announcement we've done together on the Greenland Conservation Partnership just in the last 5 months. So let's keep that pace. It's great. Minister Guilbeault, Minister Piccini, your presence underscored the importance of today's announcement for people and for nature. We really thank you. And also, every great project, as you know, need a spark. And for this project, that spark came from our industry partner, Domtar. NCC is buying the lands from Domtar at a discounted rate. And we really applaud Domtar for sharing their interest in seeing this beautiful area protected forever. So I'll ask Rob Melton, Senior Vice President at Domtar, to share a few words with us.
Thank you. Yeah, good morning and happy Earth Day, everyone. Domtar is proud to be part of this collaboration with Nature Conservancy, along with the provincial and federal governments, and to be part of the largest private land conservation agreement in Canadian history. This amazing 1,500 square kilometer tract of boreal forest with its flourishing ecosystem and abundant wildlife has been well managed as a source of wood supply to Domtar's pulp and paper mills for over 50 years. But now this land will be managed for research and conservation by the Nature Conservancy of Canada. In fact, Domtar chose to partner with the Nature Conservancy of Canada on this project because of NCC's commitment to the continued science-based management of this forest land. We look forward to our continued collaboration with NCC and seeing the findings of the research conducted on its conservation lands as they share them with the public. Domtar really looks forward to working with you and continuing to be part of this really important project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob. And as I expressed to you before, Domtar gave us the confidence and the power to dream big on this one. So we're immensely grateful for your support. It also takes a great team to pull a project like that. And I want to acknowledge the leadership of our Ontario team, as well as our board member who embraced this bold project from the start. We have with us Kristyn Ferguson, who's our Program Director for Large Landscape of Ontario, who's also a key architect behind making it happen. So Kristyn, can you give us a few words about the next step?
Absolutely. Thanks, Catherine. Well, we've actually been working on the Boreal Wildlands project for some time, really planning for the day that we assume responsibility for the care of this immense conservation area. So an important next step is going to be the development of a property management plan. That plan will guide future work, including plans for access and monitoring of the site. And to inform that plan well, we'll spend time gathering input from many local communities. We recognize the significance of this area for a number of First Nations and Indigenous communities in particular. And I'm happy to share that NCC is actively engaging with local First Nations, including those with traditional territory in the area of the Boreal Wildlands project, to learn how we can support conservation that honors Indigenous rights and relations with the land. So that might include ensuring access for harvesting, creating space for knowledge sharing. And in fact, NCC is thrilled to now be participating in a first joint research project with Constance Lake First Nation, monitoring woodland caribou populations in the area. There's lots of work ahead, but we're definitely energized by all the potential.
Thank you very much, Kristyn. We're so proud of you and the work of your teammates. Now, before we go, I'd like to leave you all with one more thought. Just as nature offers us solution, collaboration across sector, as you're seeing today, is really the way of getting more nature into our lives. The Boreal Wildland project is a $46 million project. And with the support of our partners here, as well as many of you online or individual donors and foundations, we have raised more than 2/3 of the fund. So today, we're really pleased to launch the fundraising campaign for the remaining 13 million. You really can collaborate with us. Aujourd'hui, je lance un appel à tous afin de nous aider à compléter le financement de ce projet. Vous pouvez en apprendre davantage en allant visiter notre site terreboreal.ca. So you can learn more, learn how to get involved, how to contribute by visiting our borealwildland.ca site. I really want to thank you all for joining us on this Earth Day announcement. It's a very special day for us at NCC. These comments conclude the formal remarks, so I'll turn it back to you, Gary.
Well, Catherine Grenier, thank you very much. Catherine Grenier again, who's the president and CEO of the Nature Conservancy of Canada. And Catherine, I must say, I love your big, bold, and boreal, your killer bees, but I'm going to add one. It's big, bold, boreal, and beautiful. Let's say it. On va dire les choses comme ils sont. For the members of the media, we open it now for questions. Catherine will be on hand, Mr. Guilbeault, Minister Piccini, Rob Melton, and Kristyn Ferguson are available. If you have any questions, we'd like you to name yourself, tell us which media you represent, and who you want to direct the question to. So if there are any questions out there, it's time to ask them. Pour les membres des médias, on vous demanderait de vous d'identifier le média que vous représentez et à qui vous voulez diriger votre question. So we're going to open it up to questions now. Any hands up or no questions in the 5 hands raised now. Are there any questions to anyone? Okay, Ian Campbell. We have a question from Ian Campbell. Mr. Campbell, could you identify your media and who you want to direct the question to?
Hi, it's Ian Campbell from CTV, Northern Ontario. I'm based here in Sudbury. First off, I was wondering if the NCC could elaborate in terms of, I mean, I know Councillor Stevens is the only Northern Ontarian on here, but the wilderness, the wildlands are very important to Northern Ontarians, both economically and recreationally. What does this mean? What will Northern Ontarians be able to do and not do on this land in terms of what does protected mean?
Thanks for that question, Ian. I can field that. Kristyn Ferguson from the Nature Conservancy of Canada. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. This Northern Ontario is such an important part of our economy, and we're working closely with partners like Hearst Forest Management Incorporated to make sure we're providing access for forestry companies who've been using the site for access for many years. We've been speaking with the town of Hearst about possibilities for things like ecotourism opportunities on the site, and obviously working with our partners like Constance Lake First Nation to speak about honoring their treaty rights and accommodating access to these lands. So we're really open to hearing more from local communities, and we'll be soliciting that feedback over the coming months and years as we work to create management plans for the site to ensure we're managing the site in a good way that respects all the wonderful things about Northern Ontario and this part of the world.
So by developing that property management plan, is it fair to say we don't know, like we're not ruling out fishing, hunting, or camping yet? That's still all to be determined?
Yeah, you're right, Ian. We'll be working on it, and our plans are always adaptive and iterative, so we can always come back and adjust things as we go. And certainly that local community input is going to be instrumental in creating a good plan.
Thank you, Kristyn, and thank you, Ian Campbell. We have another question here, and I don't know if we can get it through audio. Dennis Puska, who's from Moose FM in Campus Casing. And I don't know if you hear me right now, Dennis, but
yes,
can you put it through? Okay. So who do you want to direct your question to?
That I'm not certain. So if someone wants to take a crack at this, can you tell us about the number? There's 2 questions. Part 1. The number of woodland caribou that are affected that we know in the region. I know they say there's woodland caribou, but I've grown up in this region all my life, and I don't remember the numbers of woodland caribou, if there is any, that have migrated from the far north to the south. Maybe either the NCC or perhaps Constance Lake First Nation can help us with in terms of numbers. Is there a large number of the herd towards Mississauga River near Hearst, over towards between Hearst and the Hornpain Highway? That's the first part. And then the second part of it, you say this is a big project. It's 1,400 square feet. Well, does that include Hearst, Campus Case, and Constance Lake? Does it include Timmins? Does it include Smooth Rock Falls? Is there a map of what this whole area and whole region looks like? And the land, is it part of the Gordon Cousins Forest?
Those are lots
of stuff there. Who wants to take this?
I'm happy to take that one. Thank you so much for those great questions, Dennis. So we're asking really good questions about woodland caribou, much like you, and working to determine really how caribou are using this area and how many and what are those population trends. So I mentioned in my remarks how NCC is thrilled to be just getting involved with Constance Lake First Nation on a woodland caribou monitoring project, so we can really get to the bottom of those questions, because it certainly is an exciting and interesting question to ask in an area, with a lot of sort of outstanding knowledge to be gained through things like monitoring. And the area, we'd be happy to share a map of the area. It doesn't actually include any towns or cities. It's several blocks of land that are located both south and to the southwest of Hearst, Ontario. It's located within not the Gordon Cousins Forest, but the Hearst Forest.
Thank you very much, Kristyn. I think we have another question here. Let me go into the Q&A. Jean-Philippe Giroux from le journal Le Nord in Hearst. Quelles sont les retombées économiques du projet? Alors, Mr. Giroux, if you want, you can ask your question directly to our panelists. Mr. Giroux?
Oui, désolé. Donc, ma question, c'est Jean-Philippe Giroux du Journal Le Nord. Oui, donc moi, ma question, c'est quelles seront les retombées économiques pour la région de Hearst?
Who wants to field that question?
If somebody wouldn't mind translating it, I'd be happy to take a stab if it's an NCC question. My apologies.
Will there be any economic impact to this announcement today? What kind of economic impact can this have?
Yeah, that's an important question. This isn't a site where there were active resource extraction projects like forestry going on, so there won't be any negative impacts to the economy as a result of NCC conserving the site. Instead, we are thinking about the exciting economic opportunities that might be created through the creation of a carbon project, through work with communities like Constance Lake First Nation, and thinking about interesting joint projects we may undertake together, thinking about those potential ecotourism opportunities for local communities. So we're instead rather invigorated about the positive economic opportunities that might be available, recognizing the importance of the resource economy in Northern Ontario. And NCC was grateful that this project didn't present any sort of negative impact to the economy.
Well, thank you, Kristyn. And Monsieur Giroux, voulez-vous?
Gary, I just would jump in on that as well.
Okay, go.
For the importance of Northern Ontario. I mean, I think what's exciting about this is the bold initiative that this is, the largest ever expansion in Canada's history for Boreal Wildlands, and the fact that we know in the north both the tourism opportunity. It's been an industry that's been hit over the last few years, and of course this immense opportunity to enjoy the beautiful outdoors, but to protect it for generations to come. And I think appreciating the outdoors is a generational is something generational that families pass on to one another. Important teachings from Indigenous communities, and finally to Kristyn's point, I think we're also seeing incredible partnership in the north on areas where there is responsible resource development that's fueling the electric vehicle renaissance in Ontario, and that's providing the first ever, of course, critical mineral strategy and critical work being done. So I think the north, we're seeing both historic levels of protection, but also historic economic opportunity with going, things going on with Martin Falls Webquay and of course critical mineral strategy. So I think we're not only protecting but responsible resource development in partnership with all partners.
Well, thank you very much, Minister Piccini. Monsieur Giroux, est-ce que vous voulez que je traduise les propos de nos deux invités ou si ça va?
Non, c'est beau. Merci.
C'est beau? Ben, je vous en prie. Another question now from Andrew Autio. And Andrew Autio, if you like, you could ask the question yourself. He's from the Timmins Daily Press here. And the floor is yours if you want it. I have the written questions here, but you can ask them directly if you wish.
Sure, yeah, there's kind of a couple branching questions here, but first of all, how long has this been in the works, and why was this particular parcel of land targeted?
I can take that one if that's all right.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, so the Nature Conservancy of Canada has actually been working on this project with Domtar for more than a year. So it's come together over an exciting time, which feels like a long time, but also quite a short time. And the reason that this property stood out as so impressive was related to some work we've done to identify opportunities for large-scale conservation impact across Ontario. When we became aware of these properties, they stood out like a beacon. It was related to not just the size, but to what was on the land, the amazing forests, wetlands, rivers, all of those lakes, and the wildlife that these properties are supporting. In addition, they create an ecological corridor with some nearby provincial parks, Nagagamisis Provincial Park and Missinaibi River Provincial Park. And we always love a chance to expand on existing amazing work done in the areas of conservation and protection. So for all of those reasons, this project felt like a must do, and we were really grateful to get the ball rolling. And an added benefit is the proximity to communities like Constance Lake First Nation, where we'll have a chance to learn about the land and work out there together in a good way.
Thank you very much, Kristyn. Mr. Audio, do you have a supplementary question?
Yeah, I was just a little unclear. Did Domtar hold all of this land or just a portion of it?
The land was originally entirely held by Domtar, yes.
Okay, thank you, Kristyn. Any other questions out there? Ian Campbell has a question. Ian Campbell, we'll go back to you.
Hi, thanks. Sorry, one more a question again, this one for the ministers. I know Minister Piccini spoke to this a little bit. I was wondering if Mr. Piccini or Minister Guilbeault could maybe expand on maybe talking about the significance of a private entity, a charity doing this. Most people, when they think protected land or conservation land, I mean, I would jump to a provincial park, a national park, and this is something that's being done by the NCC.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm happy to take a first stab at it and pass it to Minister Guilbeault. I would say, I think what's really exciting, as we've said in the past, no one can be on the sidelines when it comes to protecting biodiversity and working together and collaboratively. And what really excites me about Nature Conservancy of Canada, at a very micro level, I've seen it with the O'Neill property in Northumberland County, where I call home, partnering, provincially, and then leveraging private sector investments to expand protected areas. And what does that mean? I mean, that means that, I'm a proud owner of a Nova Scotia duck tolling retriever, and we spend many weekends appreciating and understanding our natural outdoors. It's an important source for our Conservation Authority educational opportunities. It's expanding this in the north. You mentioned, Ian, provincial parks. I think this is but one in the many priorities of the province, expanding our provincial parks footprint, more to come on that, modernizing the parks experience to generate more revenue, to expand protected areas. We have a number of tools with the Provincial Parks Conservation Reserve Act, the PPCRA, that we use to protect green space and rely on partners. And I mean, I think it's just, what excites me is that we're seeing an unprecedented level of collaboration now. And I think it's no better exemplified than through today's example, where we see ambition at a federal level matched by ambition through a variety of forms provincially, and using a variety of collaborative partnerships that will lead to expanded opportunities in the north. I'm an avid outdoorsman myself, so I just think this is really exciting, and huge kudos to Domtar for stepping up to the plate.
Yeah, I would totally agree with Minister Piccini, Ian. I mean, when looking at both the climate change and the biodiversity loss crisis, we have to look at this as an all hands on deck type of approach, which is obviously when we think about protecting areas. Mr. Piccini talked about provincial parks, obviously the role that Parks Canada plays, and large conservation projects on public lands, but clearly private lands is also part of the equation, and the Nature Conservancy, with its partners, either at the very local level all the way to the federal government and private companies, plays a very key role in helping Canada reach its very ambitious goal of protecting 25% of our lands and oceans by 2025, and 30% by 2030. And we're actually actively engaged internationally to ensure that this 30% target by 2030 becomes an international target, not just in Canada, but around the world, so that we can stop and reverse biodiversity loss. So every project, no matter whether they're public or private, needs to be part of the solution.
Thank you very much, Minister Guilbeault. We have a couple more questions. One from Christophe Simard, who's from Radio Canada, and this one is directed to Mr. Guilbeault. Mr. Simard, la parole est à vous.
Oui, merci beaucoup, Christophe Simard de Radio Canada. Premièrement, pour Monsieur le ministre Guilbeault, pourriez-vous réindiquer essentiellement en français la contribution du gouvernement fédéral au projet, de quelle façon ça s'intègre au plan d'Ottawa pour protéger davantage d'espaces naturels au pays?
Alors, nous avons une excellente collaboration avec Conservation de la nature du Canada depuis déjà une quinzaine d'années à Environnement et changement climatique. Conservation de la nature joue un rôle très important dans l'écosystème de la protection du territoire, dans la mesure où cette organisation-là travaille énormément avec des propriétaires privés, donc des propriétaires terriens privés, pour protéger du territoire de façon de plus en plus importante. L'exemple de ce matin est un exemple frappant de ça. Alors, quand on pense à la protection du territoire, on pense bien sûr aux grands parcs nationaux, les parcs provinciaux, donc les terres publiques, mais les terres privées ont un rôle très important à jouer dans cette équation-là. Alors, la contribution du gouvernement fédéral est de 17 millions de dollars spécifiquement pour ce projet-là. Mais pas plus tard qu'hier, j'ai été avec Catherine pour une autre annonce de 60 millions de dollars sur des corridors de biodiversité. Alors, nous avons une collaboration qui est très étroite avec Conservation de la nature et ses partenaires. C'est une organisation vraiment incroyable avec qui nous pouvons collaborer sur la protection du territoire partout au pays.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Ministre Guilbeault. One more question before we wrap things up. We have a question here from Prince Edward County. Pamela Stagg from 99.3 County FM. Pamela, can you hear us? And who do you want to direct your question to?
I would like to direct my question to Catherine Grenier, please. I would like to know whether you see this as a nucleus for future expansion of your boreal forest conservation.
Well, absolutely. I think for us, it showcased the future of conservation. As we said, the crisis we're facing right now requires all of us to do more. So NCC, or the Nature Conservancy of Canada, is really committed to double its impact. So we want to do more of the great things we're doing by unleashing collaboration across all sectors. So that today is a great proof of what we could do. And certainly we're trying to do way many more projects like that in coming years.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine Grenier. And to wrap things up, I'd like Catherine, stay right there. We want you. I want to get back to big, bold, boreal, and beautiful. Catherine, maybe you could share your closing thoughts with us on this.
Thank you, Gary. We're so thrilled to be sharing this project today. I think the opportunity is there. We're not done. As an organization, for us, we call projects done once they're fully funded. So we're 2/3 of the way there. We really believe that with everyone involved, everybody can have a play in this to make it happen. I often refer that doing the work that we do is the most tangible way of an individual can get involved in order to fight climate change. Sometimes we feel we can't do anything, but this is something very practical that everyone can do. Get involved, learn about it, talk about the projects to your friend, and help us raise the remaining 13 million. Thank you.
Okay, if you'll permit it, we have one more question from the Globe and Mail. So we'll squeeze him in. We'll squeeze the Globe and Mail in for this one. Ivan, I don't know what the last name is, but Mr. Globe and Mail, what is your question? Ivan Semenyak. Mr. Semenyak?
Here we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Great, thanks. I'm going to try to squeeze in two. I appreciate everyone and thanks for your patience with the technology. I have a question for Rob Melton and also one for Minister Piccini. So let me just quickly ask Rob Melton, I'd love to hear from you and from Domtar why Domtar decided to sell this asset. What made the company come to this decision, and also what you can tell us about the history of these lands how much has been harvested, when it was last harvested, just to give us a better sense of Domtar's involvement in the property. And I have a quick question with Minister Piccini after.
Sure. Yeah, I'll do my best to answer that question. We've owned this property for a long time. That's about as far as I can say because nobody has the exact date. It goes back so far, but at least 50 years. And we've managed this land over the years to source wood to our pulp and paper mills in Ontario. However, we haven't harvested from this land in over a decade. And we felt like the opportunity to participate in this project with NCC was actually of more value to Domtar and utilizing this land for conservation than it was for future harvest use. And so when we decided to sell it, we sold it at a discount to what the appraised value was as a way to participate in this important project. So as Kristyn said earlier, this has been in the works for about a year now, and we're finally to the finish line. So it's great to see.
Thank you very much. And for Minister Piccini, I think there's clearly some broad agreement here that this is a good news for conservation in Ontario. I was looking at a document that Ontario Nature circulated to MPPs this week that does point out that Ontario has only protected about 11% of its area. And of course, Canada's committed to 25% by 2025 and 30% by 2030. So that's an awful lot of territory to make up, probably about 10 times the amount that's been announced today. Ontario Nature is calling for the Ontario government and I guess politicians to support an expansion and an acceleration of protected areas, much like occurred in 1999 under Mike Harris's government. What can you tell us about how much further the Ontario government's ready to go in protection, especially on Crown land?
Well, definitely much further. And I think it's an important we must distinguish between talk and rhetoric and between actually what's being done to get it done. And it's important to have ambition, but it's even more important to actually get it done. And, as we've seen, as I touched on with the O'Neill property at the NCC, the South Shore, over 12 kilometers of shoreline protection, discussions we're having with respect to an NMCA right now, work we're looking at doing north of the French River. There's a lot of important work being done as we speak, and of course, existing work being done with provincial parks expansion, and stay tuned to more on the provincial parks front. There's a lot of important work to do, but I think today's historic announcement, in part supported through the Greenlands Conservation Partnership Program, really signals, how important Ontario takes this. Of course, we know there's more to do, but I think it's important to underscore the important work that's been done to date. And we share that ambition. I know provinces across Canada do. We work closely with the feds on this, and municipal Indigenous partners, and of course, exceptional partners of the NCC. And I think you can't turn a blind eye and treat private sector as an other. You need to open the doors and bring them in. And since day one, that's certainly something our government's endeavored to do, because you're not going to achieve those ambitious targets we've set out by ignoring important players like Domtar.
Well, thank you very much, David Piccini, and thank you very much to all Minister Guilbeault, Minister Piccini, Christine Stevens, Rob Melton, Kristyn Ferguson, and thank you all. Thank you to all our guests, all our contributors, all our partners here. It's a big, bold, boreal, and beautiful project. It's Earth Day like no other in Northern Ontario. C'est un jour pas comme les autres pour le nord de l'Ontario. C'est un jour de la Terre, pas comme les autres. Merci à tous, and to all, have a great weekend. Bon week-end à tout le monde. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.